resources. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, the average annual rate of rape and sexual assault among American Indian women is 3.5 times higher than all other races. Crooked Braid.
He wanted to go out. He said, "You stay home." And I said, "I want to go out." He said, "You can't go out, you have a baby." And I said, "But it's our baby." I got up and I walked over and I put the baby down. He began to whimper. He must have felt my tension. I looked up at my husband and he smacked me. It wasn't a smack that turned your eyes black and blue. This was a cold, hard, domestic smack. I looked at my husband and he was smiling. I couldn't believe it. He knew what his father put his mother through. My husband, he was smiling. What was that? He was so handsome with his long hair when we made love. It got all loose before. He took me to the dinner, told me to be nice to his boss, told me to smile. I didn't want to go to the dinner. He kicked me under the table. I smiled. And then he looked at me and said, "Who are you coming on to? Quit trying to fuck everyone." I quit smiling. He kicked me again. This went on and on. When we got outside the restaurant, my husband grabbed me by my hair and he threw me in the gutter. My husband pounded me in the curb. I remember it had been snowing and my hair was all wet and sloppy and it felt like mud. And I remember running and I ran to, I don't know, he must have been drunk. I must have been drinking too because I blacked out. I woke up in a hospital after 5 brain surgeries. My hair was gone. My head was bald. It took me 4 months to learn how to move my arms, learn how to cook breakfast. I remember taking that egg, putting it in the frying pan with the bacon, and it looked right. I looked at the egg in the frying pan. I just forgot to take it out of its shell. My head was bald. After 18 years, my husband beat me. And he would get up in the morning and look like he cared so much. He would come down and I would braid his long, beautiful hair. And I would pretend like I cared and I would braid it up all nice and tight and perfectly crooked. I would make it look so it stood up all crazy like, and he would walk out on the street looking so cool and so macho and it would look so stupid. And he would look at me and he would forget that the bruises on my face were from his hands. He'd walk out on the street all macho and he would just look so stupid with his hair all crooked. And it shouldn't have made me that happy, but it did. I heard he was out all night with a woman and he was wild on top of her and she was running her fingers through his hair. My husband came home late that night and his hair was tied up perfectly nice and tight and straight. I waited till my husband passed out, and when he was snoring, I walked over slowly, I grabbed my scissors, I walked up to him and I grabbed his braid and I cut it off. I put it in his hand and I waited for him to wake up, and when he screamed, "What the fuck? I'm gonna kill you!" But when he jumped up, I had tied his shoes together. He couldn't catch me, he couldn't run. It took me 3 years to go back to him, until I waited till his hair grew back. My husband. I didn't want to make love to him. I didn't want to have sex with him. He had been drinking. I knew I was just a hole, just a piece of meat. I tried to pretend I was sleeping. And he grabbed me and he jerked me and he pulled me up. And I remember thinking, please, just get it over with. And I remember him on top of me and he was soft and he kept pumping and I said, "Stop, this doesn't feel good." And he said, "Oh yeah, who have you been with? Who have you been fucking? Was he bigger than me?" You're like a mouse with a lion. You run for the door. husband grabbed me like I was a rag and he beat the shit out of me. I remember my son screaming. I remember looking at my son screaming and seeing his tonsils. I remember trying to grab my son and my husband grabbed me by my hair and he threw me down and he beat me. And I remember my son screaming. He calls me now in the middle of the night. He didn't mean to batter his wife. He didn't mean to beat her. He's suicidal now. He knows what his mother went through. But he can't stop. They took our land, and they took our ways, and that took our men. And we want them back.